Hello guys, welcome to another Corbett Gaming Achievement walkthrough. This is a co-op LASO guide for the final mission in Halo CE, the Maw. The reason that you want to do this mission on co-op, unless you're extremely good at Halo, is because for one, you can go back to your last checkpoint when you die without having to try to do any save and quit tricks or anything like that. And for two, there's a couple of parts in the mission where having a partner is quite handy for the extra grenades to clear a couple of specific areas. I will point those out as we go along. So here at the beginning of the mission, what you're going to want to do, your co-op partner is largely just going to be hanging back and letting you do most of the work, except for those portions where you're going to use his grenades. So have the better player in your two-man duo do most of the work, and have the other guy just hang back and conserve his grenades and act as a checkpoint respawn. So here at the beginning, you're going to take your time down that first ladder as you saw me do, so that all the exploding flood forms below will blow up. Because if you go down that ladder, obviously you're going to land in that room and get blown up by all those exploding float forms. Then as you're going through these different areas in the mission, you're always going to want to try to use the little spore forms, the little popcorn guys, to get your shields back, because in LASO on CE, you can simply punch an enemy and get your shields back. You don't actually have to kill enemies with melee like you do in Halo 2. You merely have to punch them. This is very handy, as you'll see here in a moment, because I'm going to be fighting a group of these flood forms, and I stand there and just go toe-to-toe with them, as I'm doing with this guy here, and just keep punching. So they'll hit me and do some damage, and I'll punch them and get it back, and we just keep trading blows until they're finally dead. You can actually manage to handle 2 to 3 enemies all standing around you punching you at the same time, as long as you're quick enough on your punch button. Which is why, especially for this type of thing, I like to use the bumper jumper controller setup, because it allows me to just keep tapping that right shoulder button and keep punching these enemies and getting my shields back. Unlike my video for the final level of Halo 2 LASO, you won't be seeing a lot of tricks or trick jumps or despawns or anything like that. There is one pretty significant despawn near the end, but the vast majority of the mission is just slogging your way through it on this one, making sure to conserve your grenades and only use them where necessary, and just shooting and or punching the enemies to death to get through. So you're going to keep clearing out these first couple of hallways here by using that handy black eye skull and punching the enemies to death. Turn around and check the enemies there to make sure they weren't getting up behind me. You always want to be careful to make sure that you're not running past an enemy that might get back up, because oftentimes you'll kill a flood, he'll fall to the ground. You'll run on by him only to find out that he stood back up behind you and punches you in the back and kills you. So it's always a good idea just to turn around and check your 6 and make sure that any enemies you've cleared out are actually permanently dead. As you saw there, my partner warped to me. You'll periodically warp your partner when you hit the loading points. Now this part coming up right here is a pretty crucial part of the mission. You're going to want to have your partner actually follow you for this part, because you both need to get through the room at the same time. So I grabbed some frag grenades there and a health pack, and then running through this room, you're going to want to bunny hop your way through the room, basically just jumping up and down as you're running through the room. Again, bumper jumper is quite helpful for this, because it allows you to keep both thumbs on the joysticks as you're jumping your way through the room. And as I said, your partner does need to follow you through, because you can't trigger the next sequence on the bridge without your partner, and he's also going to help with using some of his grenades up here so that I can conserve mine. So on this next part right here, have the better player that's doing most of the work conserve his grenades. The partner is going to step forward and try to pull his weight a little bit by taking out this elite around the corner up here. You spawn with 2 plasmas and 2 frags at the beginning of the mission, and he should still have all 4 of those. It's going to take him probably, unless he sticks the elite with a plasma, probably 3 grenades, maybe as many as 4 to take that elite out. Once he polishes off that elite, you can see its gun on the ground there to my left. No, it's dead. There's going to be some grunts around the corner here. I had picked up a bunch of frag grenades where I picked up that health pack earlier before we ran through that room with all the Covenant. So I do just go ahead and sacrifice 1 frag grenade there to try to start work on these grunts. And then I peeked around the corner and shot 1. Now you can see the screen shaking, but you can't hear it. But the grunts explode on LASO like grenades. So I peeked around the corner and shot 1. I got pretty lucky. When he exploded, he actually killed his buddy next to him and launched his buddy across to the other side. So his explosion killed his buddy and then the buddy grunt of his got launched over to the other side, and his dead body exploded and killed the third one there. So I got pretty lucky with that one shotgun blast to take them all out. Now that I've conserved my grenades there, because my partner used his to kill that elite, I've got my grenades to go ahead and clear out this next cluster of enemies that come through this door right here. So I'm just kind of luring them out towards this hallway and then launching grenades into that corner by the door that they come out to try to clear as many out as I can. I actually did a pretty poor job right there. As you can see, 5 or 6 got through all the explosions, and I picked those off here. And then I think another 3 or 4 are actually waiting for me around the corner up here as well. So, you know, it's not going to go the same way every time. You're just going to have to adjust on the fly, do your best to get some good grenade throws, and then polish off the rest with a combination of melees and or shotguns and assault rifles. I do find that taking the assault rifle through the mission is preferred over, say, the pistol, because while you can get headshots on the flood with the pistol, for one, I'm not quite certain how effective they are on LASO due to the increased strength of the enemies. And for 2, there just isn't nearly as much pistol ammo. I'm not sure if I said plasma pistol back there. I hope I didn't. I meant to say magnum if I did, so backtrack and correct that if I accidentally said plasma pistol. But at any rate, there's not a lot of magnum human pistol ammo throughout the mission, so I do tend to go through this mission with the shotgun and assault rifle. So you see there, I just ran straight across the hallway and through the far door. I warped my partner to me at that loading point. Once again, I'm going to use these little flood spore forms to make sure my shields are full. Just punching those guys, making sure they're all dead, get them all out of my way before I turn the corner, and punch the last couple to make sure my shields are full. These sentinels right here, you can usually just run right past. Sometimes they will be looking at you. If they are, as you're running by them, just go ahead and punch them once or twice while you're running through the group to get your shields. And again, right here, these sentinels here in the hallway, you'll see I'm just punching them as I run by. Do the same. You don't have to worry about killing them. Just punch them as you're going by to keep your shields full, and you should be fine and should be able to just run right past them. Alright, and this next part right here, when I first started doing LASO, helping people out, I hadn't really discovered this neat little trick here to clear this next room of enemies, so I'm going to show you here. I really struggled with this part my first couple runs on LASO, but then by sheer accident I actually found out that I could do this thing where I hide behind the windows here. It's really odd. Typically when enemies like the exploding flood forms and grenades and things like that explode, even if you're around the corner, like behind a wall, you'll still take damage. Like those grunts on the bridge, for instance, they would explode and I'd be all the way around the corner on the other side of the wall, and I'd still take damage and get killed by them. But for whatever reason, on this part right here, you can actually just hide right there by that window that looks into that room, and you can lure the enemies over into the corner, and it doesn't matter what's going on in there. Explosions, grenades, exploding flood forms, whatever. It doesn't really matter. So you just, as you can see here, I'm right up against this corner of the window, and I'm just luring all the enemies over into the corner, which allows me to then just basically let them kill each other, because I'll peek around the corner, shoot some rifle shots into that next room, and it causes the next group of enemies to spawn. See that flood form there? I get his attention by shooting the glass, and he'll walk over here. Eventually, when he gets close enough, as they always do when they get close to you, he'll explode and set off a chain reaction. All the other enemies die. Here's another flood form here. Just squeeze up close to the window, set him off, and I'm just fine and dandy. I'm sitting out here 2 feet away from them, watching them all die, and not really having to concern myself too much with taking damage. Now, occasionally you'll have to lure one out, as I did here with this guy, because I couldn't get any exploding flood forms to come down and kill him. So I just peeked around the corner, lured him out, and then we just play the little melee game dance where we just trade blows, punching each other back and forth until he finally died. This is a rather lengthy sequence here. I had a tendency to think that maybe this spawn was just infinite, that enemies would just keep spawning and spawning and spawning until I eventually tried to just YOLO strats and run right past all of them. But that's not the case. Sooner or later, if you let enough enemies get triggered and explode here in the corner, you'll find that the spawns tend to slow down a bit. There might still be a few enemies waiting for you in the upcoming hallway, but it's not nearly as bad as if you try to do it right off the bat or early on after you've only killed a few. So my best advice for making it past this part is save that health pack right around the corner there that's on the other side of the glass, and just lure as many enemies as you can down into the corner of the glass and let them explode or pick them off, what have you, until I think I spent maybe 6 to 7 minutes on this part, possibly as much as 10. I don't think I spent 10 minutes on this. I'm speeding up the video here, obviously, so it's hard to say how long I spent here, just grinding kill after kill after kill. But you really want to take your time with this part, because this hallway, man, I tell you what, the first few times I did this mission on LASO, this hallway was the bane of my existence, because there's just tons of the exploding flood forms, and it seemed like no matter what I did trying to run down the hallway, sooner or later I'd dodge one, but he would explode and launch his buddy into me, and then he would explode and I would die. It was just a mess. But once I discovered that I could spend some time here just grinding it out and letting the enemies die, not worrying about how long the clock was running, not trying to do any crazy LASO speed runs, it turned out that it became quite easy, actually. The only really tricky part of this mission is the final Warthog escape sequence, and of course I'll be showing you that when we get there. But the rest of the mission is simply having a lot of patience, a little bit of time, and the ability to melee a lot of enemies to keep your shields up. I think it took me on this particular run right at about an hour and 5 minutes to complete the mission. It's really not too bad. Well, about now, I think you guys have probably gotten sick of hearing me just fill the empty time here while I grind out all these kills, but fortunately, that's coming to an end. These last few enemies are going to die here, and I'm going to make my break for it down the hall. As you're exiting this area here, go ahead and grab the health pack to the left, and make sure you kind of strafe around over the dead bodies to pick up any leftover frag grenades that might be there. When you come into this hall, chuck a few grenades towards the end. What this is going to do is it's going to pick off hopefully the last couple of enemies, and it's also going to set off chain reactions to get rid of any plasma grenades on the ground that might come to haunt you if you run down the hall and an exploding flood form detonates and sets off a chain reaction with those plasmas. So just chucking a couple grenades at the end of the hallway is going to take care of that problem for you. Now coming up here, this is getting pretty close to the end of the mission. You're going to warp your partner to you here at that loading point. Have him go ahead and take a right at that next fork in the hall where he is right now. My buddy accidentally went to the left there. Have him take a right and wait for you down at the end of the hallway there. What you're going to want to do is just take out all these little spore forms, and then take out this grunt that's to the left. My buddy tried to help me out there, but he missed the grunt, so I just shotgunned him there and then ducked around the corner to make sure I didn't get damaged by the grunt's exploding dead body. So anyway, pretty easy corridor to clear there. You just have the one grunt really to worry about. So this next part here is going to be where you go to the armory and get your rocket launcher to clear the final room. The hunters are to your right over there. You're just going to head straight across the hallway. There's going to be an elite around the corner up here. If you're lucky, you'll get in behind him quick enough to punch him in the back. If you're unlucky, he'll turn around and see you and you can just punch him. If you get a good strafe around him, you can punch him once and then hit him in the back like I did. Otherwise, just go toe-to-toe and keep doing that punch, punch, punch dance until he dies. When you reach the part where you see the little two orange logos on the ground, one says Armory and the other one says, I think, Engineering, if I'm not mistaken. You're going to want to take the right-hand one first and head down to the Armory. Grab a rocket launcher, fill it up with as many rockets as it can carry, and then head down to Engineering. Now right here, this is the despawn. When you see that loading point and it warps your partner to you, make sure he stays there. He should not come with you under any circumstances for this final room. He should stay exactly where he gets warped to when you hit that loading point. What that does is allow you to come into this room with no enemies, no resistance whatsoever, and you can just take your sweet time taking out the engine cores, whatever you want to call them. Now you will have to go back down to the armory to get some more rockets, because with the recession skull on, it takes both of your rockets in your clip to fire one shot. So unless you get lucky here or you try to maybe throw a couple of grenades into the engines, you're going to wind up running out of rocket ammo before you finish off all these. But it's not a big deal. As I said, with your partner staying at that loading point, all these enemies are going to be despawned here. You're going to be able to just have your way with this room, so to speak. And once you exhaust all your rockets, you can head back down to the armory and pick up some more. So I got 3 of the 4 cores taken care of there. Now I'm just going to head down to the armory. Now you're going to see on my video, I do have it sped up here, so it's not going to show you really the subtle intricacies of punching an invisible flood form, but you see in this room here when I come back to the armory, there's this invisible flood. There's actually several of them that can spawn in there. The reason he's there is because the first time I went in, I went too far into the room. So the first time you come into that room, you're probably going to want to just try to take the first couple of rocket ammo packs on the left and then the first 1 or 2 rocket ammo packs on the right so that you don't go too far into the room. That'll allow you to come back and grab the extra ammo here the second time, and unfortunately for the second time when you come back for extra ammo, you will have to go further in the room. So it will spawn those flood forms, but you shouldn't have a problem with running in there, grabbing your rockets, and running out without having to deal with them the way I did. Unfortunately, I made the mistake of going too far into the room on my first visit, so they were already there ready and waiting for me, and so I had to deal with them on the second. But it's not a huge deal. You can even, as you can see, I had no shields and was down to 2 red bars of health by the time I got clear of the area. But this final room has 4 health packs on each side on that bottom level, and you can see I grabbed one on my way back in here this time. So you won't have any difficulty getting your health back after you deal with those flood, if you do wind up having to deal with them when you're going back for more rocket ammo. So go ahead and get your extra rocket ammo. Make sure to top it off, because after this last engine core here, you are gonna need a couple more rockets to deal with the Covenant that are waiting for you on the lift. So make sure you have a full 8 rockets when you come back in here. And of course, when you come back in after getting more rocket ammo, once again, just have your partner stay down there on that loading point so that it doesn't spawn any enemies in here for you. Finish off the last core and head through these doors and around to where the elevator that takes you up to the Warthog escape sequence is. And just take out the enemies by any means necessary, throw grenades, shoot your rockets, whatever you need to do. You should get a checkpoint sometime after the last engine core and before the elevator comes down. You should get at least 1 checkpoint on your way up here. Sometimes I think I got 2 checkpoints. I got 1 as I was passing through the first door, and then I got 1 right there by that door that's exploded with the flames by it. So it doesn't really matter. Just take them out. You might die a couple times if you get an unlucky spread on the enemies, because that first rocket that you fire in there sometimes can kind of knock them around the room without killing them, and then the elites kind of go crazy and start throwing grenades at you. You may get unlucky and die. It's not really a big deal. A couple tries on that and you should be able to clear it no problem. Once you've actually got the elevator clear, now it should be safe for your partner to go ahead and come back into this room with you, into the engine room, and you guys can start heading up to the elevator. Now, due to Halo CE's wonderful net coding, read sarcasm there, my partner was super laggy and was ice skating all over the place, so I actually gave him a boost up here onto the pipe there to get across to the upper level, and I'll give him another boost up onto the catwalk too, because when he was trying to jump, the lag was just really bad for him. He was having a really hard time even making these simplest of jumps. Because you do have to crouch jump onto the grating, for instance, right there. It necessitates a crouch jump, and he was having a very difficult time getting up there just due to the terrible lag being off host. And I believe he was actually playing overseas, if I'm not mistaken. I can't remember who I was playing with in this particular run, but the lag does get really bad at times for the person that's not hosting, so you can boost him up there if need be. Now, you will take some damage usually going up this lift as well. There's some explosions that go off, so my advice is to just stand right in the middle of the elevator so that you don't get right up against any of the explosions as they're going off. Doesn't really matter too much. There's some health packs up at the top of the lift right before you get into the Warthog. We're going to use the Warthog on the right, and there is a health pack on the right of it and on the left of it, both on the driver's and passenger sides. So both people can have full health and full shields when you start the Warthog escape. And this is another thing that makes doing this in co-op quite useful, because when you're doing the Warthog escape sequence, when the enemies are shooting at you, it has a tendency to kind of split the targeting or divide the damage or whatnot between the two players. I have noticed, between running this mission LASO by myself and running it with a co-op partner, it is easier on this Warthog escape sequence with a co-op partner. Now at the beginning there, before you go over that very first ramp after you get in the Warthog, I would suggest waiting a second or two. There's a few enemies that can spawn around the corner, and if you wait a second or two, they tend to be dead, so you don't have to worry about them damaging you before you even start your escape. And this first room here, as you saw, I went straight up the middle. I usually make it over across the top the whole way, but one of the jumps across the top, I didn't make it, even though it's only like 2 feet wide, and bounced off the far wall and dropped down below. But that first room's pretty easy. This room right here has the sentinels. You're going to want to swing around the corner as fast as you can. If you can maintain as much momentum as possible, it is very beneficial, because if you slow down at all, those sentinels will tear you apart, both the ones in the room and these ones in the hallway here. You want to maintain as much momentum as you possibly can to avoid getting torn up. Now in this room, head over to the left once again. So the first room, it was the middle of the room. The second room, it was to the left, and the third one, it was to the left. So it's middle, left, left for the escape sequence there. And then once again, in this room, it's middle, and I'm going to just hang around to the left here because there's some grunts. So it's middle, left, left in the first three rooms. And then this room, you're going to kind of go middle, hook around to the left, and then fishtail back through the middle underneath the platform so that the grunts up top with the fuel rod cannons can't nail you as you're driving underneath their platform. And then right here you'll hit the bridge where the ship comes and fails to rescue you. Unfortunately, it would be great if the mission ended right at that moment, but it does not, so you're going to keep going. Oh, the narration got cut off right there, but anyway, you're going to keep going after the bridge. This next part here is the big jump is the only other really crucial portion here. Going over the big jump, what you're going to want to do, what I've noticed, it tends to try to flip you end over end, and if you flip, you have a tendency to die. So you want to try to keep the Warthog from flipping, and my best advice for that is to try to hit either a little bit to the left or a little bit to the right on your left thumbstick right as you're clearing the ledge. If you do it too early, you'll steer left or right and you'll miss the jump. If you do it too late, you'll be flipping end over end. But if you do it just the right time as you're clearing the ledge, you'll do what I did there. As you can saw, my Warthog started to veer just a little to the right, but it stayed mostly level and didn't end up flipping, which allowed me to make the jump without dying. So you may need to practice that a little bit, but it's not too bad. And then right here, your partner can just stay behind with the Warthog. It doesn't matter. You're going to go outside the wall on the left-hand side here. Make sure you don't go to the right, because enemies have a tendency to be fighting over there outside the wall, and they'll see you and kill you. So just go outside the wall to the left, make the run to the ship, and you're done. Mission is complete. LASO playlist, hopefully, if that's what you're doing right now, is complete, and you should have your glorious LASO achievement. This will most likely be my final LASO video for quite some time. I've been anxious and itching to move on to other games. I've been playing Master Chief Collection almost exclusively for the past few months, and I'm really itching to start working on some other games and start earning gamer score again. Once again, as always, I really hope you guys enjoy my videos. If you do, please like, comment, and subscribe, and have yourselves a wonderful day.